Anya, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am back with a 64 by 64 build, and this is a special one because it might be the beginning of a new series that I've been thinking about doing for like 9 months now. I actually had this idea in January, and I will explain how I got to it in just a minute. But this is called the Wyoming Wonder, and it is based on homes in Wyoming. And if you don't know, Wyoming is one of the states in the United States. It became the 44th state on July 10th in 1890, and it's an interesting one. I've never been there personally. I've never been off the East Coast of the United States, but I wanted to let you guys know how I came across this idea. So in January, me and my boyfriend were sitting down talking about how on the East Coast where we live, all the states are quite small, but they have high populations. So we were wondering what state in the United States has the smallest population, and it turned out to be Wyoming. And it's the 10th largest state by area with 97,914 square miles, but it only has a little over 500,000 residents, or closer to 600,000. And I thought that was really interesting. And so immediately, our first reaction was, let's go on real estate websites and look at the homes there and see how much they cost. There's not that many people. There's tons of land. They're probably in the middle of nowhere. And we spent hours doing that. And we found some really interesting things. Some quirky designs that are probably not necessarily all, this is just what Wyoming looks like. Some of them are just older houses or just have some weird things. And most of the houses we looked at were in the capital of Cheyenne. But I compiled some pictures of exteriors, interiors, and some things that I only found in one house, some things that I found in many houses, and kind of combined a bunch of different ideas to build this house. So the outside is based on a couple of pictures I saw that were kind of cliffside, or not really cliffside, but on rocks. So that's kind of why the outside is kind of balanced on the cliff in the front, and in the back you have more of a clear view of the home. However, the interior is from a bunch of different images, and when we get to the inside, I will talk more about the decisions that I made in there. But I thought this would be a really fun idea for a new series. Obviously, we're starting with Wyoming because that's kind of, I happened to come across it with that conversation me and my boyfriend had earlier this year. But if you guys have any suggestions for other states you would like me to do, I'm just restricting it to the United States because I'd like it to be like a state thing, because there's so much diversity within the states, and I'm from the states, so I have a little bit more knowledge about them. I mean, I might eventually do other stuff too, or this might not be a series. We'll see what you guys think. But I also did a ton of research on Wyoming because I thought it would be really interesting because I know absolutely nothing about the state. So obviously I read you a little bit about the population and the capital. It's also home to the Rocky Mountains and the Yellowstone National Park. And it seems hunting is pretty big there. And I had a feeling on that based on the listings that I saw on real estate websites, because pretty much every house, when you looked inside, had multiple taxidermied heads of deer on the walls, as well as lots of like bear rugs. Like it looked like everything was real fur. They had lots of taxidermy, and so I had a feeling hunting might be a big thing here. And so I was looking that up, and they have a ton of different animals that they hunt, but there's just tons of wildlife there in general. There's black bears, bighorn sheep, bison, bobcats, coyotes, elks, foxes, wolf, Canada lynx, moose, mountain goats, mountain lions, deer, pronghorn, and lots of small animals, and tons of snakes, 2 of which are pretty venomous, especially the midget-faded rattlesnake. There's 2 venomous rattlesnakes there. So I think I'd be a little scared, but anyone that lives in Wyoming, how often do you see these animals? It seems like a lot, because a lot of the listings I saw, in addition to having pictures of the house, outside and inside, they had pictures of wildlife on their property, like that just casual mountain lion in the morning. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Also, because of like the hunting, I guess over the years, at one point in time, grizzly bears in the area were on the endangered species list or protected species, and that is no longer. And there was a hunt that was supposed to start taking place to kind of limit the population. And this is very recent. I was just looking up hunting in Wyoming, and this is all like within the last 2 days. Apparently, the U.S. District Judge Dana Christensen placed a temporary block on the start of the state's first grizzly bear hunt in 40 years. There's a large population they're trying to keep down. And the grizzly bears from the greater Yellowstone ecosystem were removed from the protection under the Endangered Species Act in June of 2017 because their populations have been exceeding recovery goals for a few years. There was voting earlier this year that allowed limited hunting of them, but now they're with that temporary block. They are waiting for 2 weeks or 14 days to find out the latest. And if the ruling is allowed and they end up being able to do that hunt, it's only going to allow for 24 bears across both Wyoming and Idaho to be hunted. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about hunting, but I do understand keeping population down, and I don't want to get into all of that. But I just thought it was an interesting thing because there's not a whole lot of hunting where I'm from, and so I'm just really intrigued by Wyoming in general. It's so big, there's so much land, there's not that many people, and there's a ton of wildlife. It's very, very different from where I live, so I really it was interesting to read about it and look at lots of pictures, and yeah, so we're going to talk about the build for a little bit now, and I'll come back to some fun facts later. But basically, as you can see, the outside is coming together. I put a lot of water around, which wasn't necessarily something that I saw in a lot of the pictures, but I thought in the Sims, just putting tons of land with nothing on it looked kind of not that good, because I had to take some creative freedoms within the Sims to try and make this look good, but I wanted to capture that it's on a lot of land. It's a small house, not even that small. This house isn't small, but for a 64 by 64 lot, it's small. And I wanted to capture that feeling of a small house on a large property. And so 3 of the 4 corners of the lots are full. One of them is pretty empty other than trees because I felt like it needed some empty space, but I put a lot of water around, which led to the weirdest thing I think I've ever Googled, which was, does Wyoming have ponds? And it just brought me to a bunch of articles about getting man-made ponds put in for fishing in Wyoming. So I'm going to assume yes, there are ponds, whether they are man-made or not. But I put a bunch of water in around this property. I thought it looked really nice and I had fun with it. I think you can tell by how interested I am in what I'm talking about, and it was a lot of research, which I think just made this way more fun. And like I said, a lot of the design decisions are solely based on the listings I found. So whether those are prominent Wyoming things or just funky listings I found, I guess we'll find out, but I thought it was a fun way to do it, and that's why I thought it would be the Wyoming Wonder or Wacky Wyoming or whatever, because it's just kind of the fun ones. The ones that stood out to me is what I went with, but I went with a combination of styles that I felt looked nice for the exterior of the home, but it just has a couple of surprises inside. And I put this hot tub in the rocks over here. I thought it looked so pretty. I just really like this. It seems like it would be so peaceful, but then I'd be afraid of a mountain lion coming and hanging out with me and trying to eat me or something. I don't know a lot about protocol in places like this that have a lot of wildlife, what you do if you come across certain things. It scares me a little bit. But if you live in an area that has a lot of crazy wildlife, I'd like to know more about that, because I definitely don't know a lot. And it's really interesting to me because I live in New England. We have black bears and not that many, and that's really it. We have foxes. I see foxes a lot and deer a lot, but seeing wildlife isn't that common. Anyway, we're in the kitchen now, and I used these floorboards throughout the house that are from Spooky Day stuff, I believe. And at some point I get rid of them in the kitchen, put tiles down, but I end up going back to the floorboards in the end because I thought it looked really nice. And one thing I noticed about Wyoming kitchens that I was looking at were most of them were kind of open concept like this. They were pretty big. They weren't too closed off. The dining area was right there. Sometimes the living room was combined as well. One thing that I noticed that I didn't end up doing just because I didn't use tall wall heights was most of the houses had greenery above the cabinets, which is something that I feel like I saw a lot in the 90s growing up. Almost every house I went to had plants hanging over the cabinets. I didn't do that in this kitchen, but that's just because I didn't want to have taller wall heights. But that was something that I found very interesting. I don't know if that's just that state thing, that part of the country thing, or just a couple of people I saw just happened to think that was cool. I probably went through 40 listings. back in January and took screenshots. And then I went through them again a couple of days ago when I went to go finally build this. It was on my to-do list forever because I really wanted to start the series, but I also really wanted to do some more research, and it was really just fun, and I'm glad I finally did it. And you're probably wondering why there's so many fish on the walls. So, I may have mentioned the large amount of taxidermy throughout these houses, and I mean a lot of taxidermy. But we don't really have that in The Sims, but we do have mounted fish. So there are a lot of mounted fish in this house, and we don't have, like, rugs that are shaped like bears, but we do have, like, fake fur rugs, and so I pretended they were real fur rugs. So there's a lot of fish and a lot of rugs in this house, and it's all, like, very warm browns. I saw a mixture of different types of woods and stuff throughout the house, and houses I looked at, but I decided to go for a more warm tone because I thought it went better with what I was kind of working with. But this is going to be the little dining area, and I also used doors instead of archways because I found that if there were separate rooms going from, like, dining to living, that more often they were, or kitchen to dining, more often they were doors than archways. So I thought that would be kind of nice, and we're just adding a bunch of clutter in here, trying to make it nice and lived in. I really like how this house came out. I think it would be really fun to play in. Actually, when I was going to take the screenshots, I had Penny Pizzazz move in here just to take screenshots, and it started snowing in summer. So I had her use the weather controller to, like, change the weather, and she died. And then I was panicking because, like, it was, like, end game, and I was like, okay, I'll just move somebody else in. And the whole place became unfurnished all of a sudden. Like, and I had already saved the game. And I like, those rocks outside are technically tables and chairs. So it was all of the furniture in the entire house was gone, including huge chunks of landscaping. And I was like, oh my goodness, what did I just do? But it turns out that I already saved it to the library, so I just replaced it down and everything was fine. Speaking of which, because I experienced this when I did that, if you are going to download this house, you're going to want to put the Move Objects cheat on before you do so, or a lot of items will drop. I use a lot of Move Objects on in all of the houses I build, so that's probably a good idea. It's bb.moveobjectson, which you can get to by doing Control-Alt-C or Control-C? I think it's Control-C to bring up your cheat menu. It's all like muscle memory. Like, I'm a graphic designer in real life, and when people ask me how to do certain things in, like, Photoshop or Illustrator or After Effects, they're like, oh, what keys do I press? And I'm like, because, like, I do it all the time, but I don't know what I'm pressing because it's just my fingers knowing where the buttons are. So I have to think about it. But this is living room, and you can see I have that giant lion head fish head. I really wanted to use that one in particular because it's the one that has the head coming forward. It's not the whole body. And I thought that was more reminiscent of taxidermy in general, or, like, giant deer heads. So I thought that was most relatable. We also changed the wallpaper in here a gazillion times, and we end up kind of combining two of these, making them smaller and having two of them on top of each other to make a TV stand. There's lots of plants in this house, and I even used a little goofy moose statue from Outdoor Retreat. We sized it down. I thought that was kind of cute because, I don't know, I don't think moose was on the list of animals that are in Wyoming, or was it? It might have been. Now I'm looking. Yeah, moose it is. Yeah, okay. See, it works. I didn't know that when I was building this. I knew there was a ton of wildlife. I knew there was bears. I knew there was mountain lions and bobcats and stuff and snakes, but I didn't know about the moose. But I thought that it was reminiscent of the feel I was going for anyway, so I did go ahead and put that statue in shortly near the TV. I had to size it down quite a bit, obviously, because it's enormous. But we're just adding some more clutter over here. And we should be grabbing that moose shortly, I think. We also added some random liquor bottles in the kitchen because I found them, and added a remote on the table. I also used the new coffee table from the Caribbean update because I'm just obsessed with it, and I think it looked really nice with the flora in here. And we also just ended up adding a magazine on the table. It was just a book I sized up. I'm trying to remember which one I added. Oh, this one with mushrooms on it, I think? No, I think I grabbed a different one. I'm not sure, but, oh no, I kept that one. I was trying to find something that, like, resembled, like, greenery or wildlife. And here's our little moose statue. He's, like, so cutesy. I wish he was more realistic because I thought that would look nice. And, of course, we're adding some more fish around the house. I mean, I don't know how big fishing is. I think it's a pretty big thing because it came up quite a few times. But I didn't put the fish because of fishing. I put them because of hunting. But I mean, I guess it works both ways. And we're just going to add some more bookcases in here. And then we have a Don't Wake the Llama game, I believe we add over on the other side of the living room, which leads out to a small deck. I didn't put anything on there, but I think you could easily put something small on there. I was going to suggest an easel, but I put an easel in the backyard later on. We also added a ton of pet stuff throughout this house, so if you have a dog or a cat, you'll be good for that. Also, I just realized I was talking about how you need to move objects on if you want to get this from the gallery, but I didn't mention how you can get it. So it'll be listed in the description down below as well. But if you want to download this house or any build that I've ever made, you can search the title of it on the gallery, or you can search my origin ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi, or the hashtag MsGryphi, which is the name of this YouTube channel, because I put that hashtag in all of my builds that I upload. But yeah, this space is coming together really well. I think it's so cute. It's very much not my style, but I really, really like it. I don't know. I got to use a lot of items I don't typically use, like that mirror from Outdoor Retreat that is like made out of planks of wood, and just some stuff I don't normally use. And I love doing that. I love experimenting with things in The Sims that I don't typically use, because it just makes building so much more fun. I love building so much, and so it's fun to do styles that I don't usually do. But that just brings me into, like, if you guys have any more ideas for other states, because I really do want to make this series. I don't know how often I will do different builds, and I don't think they're all going to be on 64 by 64 lots. But if you have any ideas, especially houses that might have very, very different styles than this, or different styles than I typically build, because I typically build just a lot of suburban homes, because that is the thing that is most familiar to me and most useful to me, because that's what I play in the game. I'd love to hear your suggestions, because I'm just having a lot of fun experimenting with different build styles, and doing the research on Wyoming was really interesting, and I'd love to do that more about other states, because as somebody in New England, Wyoming is one of those states I forget about. There's a lot of states that I forget about, and I don't actually, without looking it up, know where they're located in the United States. I'm just like, I know it's not on the East Coast. So I would love to be more educated on some of the states, and I wouldn't have known about, like, this crazy grizzly bear hunting ban if I hadn't done this. And it was just really strange, because that was so relevant. It was posted yesterday. So I don't know. I just find it really interesting, and it's a good way to just learn a little bit more about the country and have a lot of fun doing it. And yeah, so if anyone lives in a cool area or knows of a cool area I should explore, please let me know. But we're going downstairs, and it's about to get quirky. So one of the things I made sure to do is have a fully carpeted bathroom. That was one of the things I saw, which I'm sure isn't a Wyoming thing. I just thought it was a quirky thing I found in one of the houses that I was looking at from Wyoming. So I wanted one of the bathrooms to be a fully carpeted bathroom, which I think is kind of gross, but maybe it hasn't been renovated yet, and it had a carpet back in the day when carpets were all the rage. So that's kind of the idea I had with this. Other than the carpet, I think this bathroom looks pretty nice, fits the style of the home very well. It just happens to be fully carpeted, which I think is very strange. But that's one of the quirks. Obviously, the taxidermy is another quirk, and whereas taxidermy is more of a Wyoming thing, some of these are just specific houses, and you're like, whoa, what is this purple? That's another quirk. I add two very strange colored walls down here, because one of the builds, or a couple of quite a few of the houses I looked at had, like, all one similar style, like the outside and upstairs has, everything matched perfectly, and then all of a sudden, there was, like, bright purple or bright blue, like, one wall, or lime green, one wall, like, with ugly curtains on it, like, floral, like, curtains, like, really bad looking curtains. And so I wanted to incorporate a little bit of that, because I found it in quite a few houses, that there would be, like, a corner of a room, or, like, one wall, or behind one cabinet that was a really strange color that made no sense with the rest of the house. And it happened in enough homes that I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know why this is, but I'm going to go with it. I also decided to use this floral wallpaper in this master bedroom because I saw a lot of this type of floral throughout the houses I looked at, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's a wallpaper I never use because I kind of think it's ugly. And then I got to use these like grandma curtains a lot that came with cats and dogs because I felt like they fit the style a lot. And we got some more fish heads in here, or just fish, I guess. So there's a lot of fish. A lot of fish. And of course we are bringing more of those fur rugs in here because I made sure to put those in most of the rooms. The other rooms, we have one of them is kind of a generic kind of guest room, and the other one is like a tween room, like a tween boy room. Those don't have like the same crazy amount of stuff, or like taxidermy, but they do still kind of feel like they fit the style of this home, I think. And I spent forever in here changing colors, and I don't think I cut any of it out, so we're just moving some stuff around and decided we only need one fish in here, because how many fish do you need in your bedroom? Not too many fish. And adding a guitar as well. And then we'll be heading on into the other bedrooms. But before we do that, I wanted to give you guys some fun facts about Wyoming I found. Wyoming's license plate features a man on a bucking bronco. I thought that was kind of cool, and then I looked it up as soon as I read that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Also, the largest coal mine in the United States is located near Wright, Wyoming, and it's called Black Thunder. The JCPenney store franchise was started in, I'm going to pronounce this horribly, so I apologize if you're from Wyoming and I'm saying this wrong, Kemerer? They were started in Wyoming. And this is my personal favorite fact I read. The first dude ranch in Wyoming was the Eaton Ranch near Wolf. The Eatons also came up with the term dude. So whenever you say dude, that's from Wyoming. And I really appreciate that. That's just a fun fact I never would have thought of or came up with, or I obviously wouldn't have come up with it because I didn't create that fact, but I never would have come across it if I didn't do this build and didn't do all this random like Googling of Wyoming. And so this was so much fun. And then this is the tween boys room. I imagine this was like a 11, 12-year-old kid, and I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know, it's a really simple room, but I feel like because of the very rich wood colors that we're using throughout this house, it kind of gave this room a different feeling than a lot of the other kids' rooms I do usually. So I just thought it was kind of cute. And we're going to add some just mess on the ground, and then going into the hallway to add another weird pop of color. It makes zero sense, and it's not supposed to. So if you're like, oh, that looks awful, that was the intention. But I really love this house. I think it's super quirky and very different than anything I've ever done. So I'm very happy with how it came out. And I know it might not be for everyone because it does have some very strange things in it. But hopefully you guys enjoy it and download it if you'd like to. I don't know. This was a weird video and I've put it off forever, and I'm happy I did it. I think it was really, really fun. I want to do another one. And I'd love to hear your feedback on what you think of this build. What do you think of the idea of kind of exploring other houses in other states on real estate websites and combining aspects of them, especially quirky aspects, into homes, as well as like researching the state and all of that, because I think it's really fun and it's different than anything I've ever done before, so it's something I'd like to do. So yeah, we're going into the last room here, which I couldn't decide for the longest time what I wanted it to be, and you'll probably see me struggling with it, and I just put the easel outside as well. But this ends up being kind of an office. I thought about making it a bedroom. I just moved stuff around a lot. It's kind of a not that great looking room. I kind of wanted it to be a room that they didn't know what to do with because of the way it's structured and how it's built into the rock and stuff. So they just kind of figured it out over time. It's kind of supposed to be like right now it's an office. Maybe we'll change it into something later. I'm not really sure what I want to do with this type of room. So that's kind of what I did. We just have a couch, a desk, a bookcase, and a scouting table, because I imagine scouting is really big in a place that's so big on the outdoors. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this Wyoming build. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and make sure to like this video if you liked it, and you could also subscribe to the channel to support me, and turn on those notifications to be notified of every single time I upload a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye everybody.